Welcome to the live stream. Here we go. Just making sure everything is good to go. Hope you guys all had a great 4th of July, long weekend, whatever kind of weekend it was. While we were enjoying holidays and sunshine, and some of you, some crazy hurricanes and whatnot, heat. We got a lot of heat. Well, there's a little bit of heat that's been building. Let's get into that. Sear. We're just searing the exterior of the village of Dolton, because what you've got now is you've got a bank that through the legal court system has frozen funds, meaning they don't trust the village as far as they could throw village leadership. They don't trust them one bit, and they don't have any reason to. What happened is there was a lawsuit with the whistleblower, and the courts awarded a judgment, and Village of Dolton said, yep, we're going to pay. Promise. They wrote out a check. They had it signed. It was never delivered to the individual who had the money coming. And it was going to pay attorney's fees, court costs, all kinds of stuff, and the actual judgment itself. A couple $100,000. They just never paid it. Check was issued. Money just never went anywhere. Now, normally you'd say, maybe it's a mix-up. No. You've got massive cash flow issues. And that's what today's live stream is about. Is this the proverbial, straw that breaks the camel's back? Is this the one tiny little piece? And it's not tiny, a couple $100,000. And what they did is they froze $400,000 out of an $800,000 bank account. Now, when you've already spent way beyond the income coming in, you're in a deficit, you're in a hole. So when you have money put on hold like this, that money of that bank account, now you can't pay your smaller bills, you can't pay your smaller vendors, because that money is on hold until the court says, okay, let's release this, let's get this done. Because that's how far the Village of Dolton is behind. They're having to have court orders to basically pay their bills. This is wild. But again, this is not shocking, but it's like, oh, okay, that's happening now. All right. Court ordered bank account has its assets frozen. They didn't seize the assets. They didn't seize the assets from the standpoint of reaching in there and pulling that money out. They just put it on hold, saying, hey, what's going on here? You said you were going to pay and you didn't. We've got a video. Let's go to the video. Let's watch a little video. This is NBC Chicago. Regina, I forget her last name. She's a great reporter. Let's get this bad boy. All right. Audio.
5 exclusive, growing financial troubles in South suburban Dolton.
Here we go. How about that? You don't want to see me. You want to see the video.
Failure to pay a debt has led to legal action on one of the village's bank accounts.
As NBC5's Regina Waldrop reports, this is just the latest problem for the community, as the mayor is the focus of a wide-ranging corruption investigation.
Allegations of misspending, bills not being paid. In the small south suburb of Dolton, residents and governmental leaders have been speaking out about these issues for months.
It's some trying times in the village right now.
Now, more financial troubles. Last week, legal action taken on one of the village's bank accounts, leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars off limits.
We served a document on the village's bank that requires the document to freeze twice the amount of the judgment. So in this case, the bank has frozen $440,000.
David Graham is a former Dolton detective.
I was there for 17
years. In 2019, he won a whistleblower lawsuit against the village. After several failed appeals, the village settled and agreed to pay around $220,000 in attorney fees and costs. Attorney Pat Walsh says the action on the village's bank account taken because it has yet to pay, even after the village board approved payment.
The village agreed in a settlement agreement to pay these fees. The court awarded these fees, and now they're just not paying it.
A typical Dolton reaction for whistleblowers. They go against you, they retaliate against you, they're still retaliating today.
Tammy Brown is a Dolton trustee. She says it's unclear why the judgment has not been paid.
It says $809,000 in the account and $440,000 was frozen. That check was cut months ago. And why wasn't it given to that vendor? I don't know.
I hope that
Everybody knows. That's the bottom line. Everybody knows. Nobody wants to. I mean, she's trying to protect, you know, the overall village. I'm not really sure. Well, you've got massive overspending. You've got misallocation of money. You got money flying all over. And now when you take out that one chunk, all the other vendors are going to, you know, if they've got payment issues, they're going to be all gunning for what money is left before everything gets seized. So this is not the first time this has happened, but this is the most recent time.
the courts will see that everything that's been going through, and they award us that check so we can finally put this behind us.
We reached out to Mayor Tiffany Haynes' administration, but there was no response to our repeated requests for a comment. This matter heads back to court on July 23rd. Regina Waldrop, NBC5 News.
So they froze the account. They froze those funds in the account. And now they'll go back to court. And so the village has the option, hey, you can go ahead and pay that, or they can appeal, they can do whatever, have their attorneys just mix things up. And that's a lot of what's been going on, is that all of this stuff is just kind of in the system. Here's another major issue that, you know, we had happen not long ago. Law firm drops Village of Dolton as client says it hasn't been paid. So you've got a ton of people who have not been paid. And now it's going to come down to, you know, everybody fighting over the crumbs because, you know, with the FBI investigation, all the investigation of the books, you've got former Mayor Lori Lightfoot doing her own investigation. And somebody had a question on the live stream comments wondering, hey, when's the board going to meet with Lori Lightfoot? I think as soon as she gets all of her information together. She said, Lori Lightfoot said about, I think it was a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, that she's getting some forward progress and she's getting a better idea of what the situation is, meaning she's, you know, putting all her facts together. But when will they vote? I mean, that's going to be an in secret meeting, right? That's not going to be at the council meeting, I don't think. And then what will happen is the group of administrators with the village will present the findings to the entire village. And then, you know, and that's if some other major legal action hasn't been taken already. There's going to be some major legal action for sure. I mean, there's no way with this kind of thing, with funds being frozen, you know, checks not being cut to people who they should have been cut. And again, this is not brand new for the Village of Dolton, but it's in a situation now where you've had overspending and you're not paying the vendors from the city who should have been paid. You know, you got a roofing contractor going out, they're not getting paid. Hey, and they're going after the homeowners, the elderly homeowners, the seniors are getting their roofs fixed. That was one kind of prime example. So the roofing company, you know, went to the village and said, why aren't you paying? Why aren't you paying to the seniors? Nobody's bills are getting paid. And that was a roofing company that was a no bid contract with the Village of Dolton. Mayor Tiffany Henyard, she's got her hands in all of this. So now she's at that point where, you know, she's running a business and she has massive cash flow issues. And when you have a bank come in and boop, do $400K might sound like a lot, but when you're running a village of 23,000 people, you got millions and millions of dollars coming in and out. But one small, it's like if your family budget is, I don't know, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month, whatever it is, $5,000, I don't know. You know what I mean? Say it's $3,000. And then all of a sudden somebody scoops through and takes $500 from your account, 500 out of $3K. It's a percentage, right? So 400K out of an 800K account, all right, it's not a huge amount for the village itself out of its total numbers, millions and millions and millions of dollars coming through and going out. But you got to run the village. And now somebody else isn't getting paid. Another vendor isn't getting paid. something else that won't squawk, that individual won't squawk, isn't getting paid, because only the people who are squawking right now, and by that I mean court orders, legal stuff, attorneys, all of that. It'll all come to a head. Let's take another look here. We've got, let's get this bad boy going. So this is kind of the down and dirty. Judge freezes funds in Village of Dolton bank account. This is an update on the citation to discover assets. So I pulled up the citation to discover assets, and that is just basically the legal ability for the court to freeze the amount of judgment up to triple. They only did double. They're taking it easy on TIF, right? They're taking it easy. A hearing was held last week, and the court froze $440,000 in the Village of Dolton's bank account, which is twice the amount of the judgment against them, plus interest, because the check was never tendered after the village board voted to pay it. Could you imagine if you're on that village board like the woman we saw? I mean, that'd be hot. It'd be like, what? This should have been paid long ago. Again, this is happening over and over and over. Bills are not being paid. And that's why you keep hearing, the village officials saying, where's the transparency? Well, there isn't any transparency, and there probably won't be any transparency until you've got some kind of, and I hate to say it, government intervention. You got the government taking over the government, right? I mean, because it's just all so corrupt. You got money flying here. You got judgments. You got all kinds of stuff going on. People not being paid. You've got water bills to the to the Village of Dolton that are not being paid. The firefighters aren't being paid. I think I live streamed on that last week. The firefighters union showed up at the last meeting and basically said, hey, we got 15 firefighters, and I got 3 firefighters that their wives are pregnant. Their wives are going to have kids, as you do when you're pregnant. And their trips to the hospital, their trips to their doctors are being denied because the amounts taken out of the paychecks for the firefighters are not being distributed to the healthcare. Their, what was it? Workers' compensation money that should have been taken out of the firefighters' paychecks is not going to their workers' compensation fund. And their retirement. Imagine seeing that chunk of money come out of your paycheck and go into your retirement, and then you get your retirement statement. Hey, last 8, 9, 10 paychecks, there's been no money that's gone into my retirement. I mean, that is some serious stuff there. I mean, you just can't have that going on. So at some point in time, somebody's going to have to step in from some entity. What's that going to look like? Well, FBI is already probing it, right? So I don't know. What's a governmental takeover look like? So article goes on to say, we assume there will be a seizure under forthcoming, which will be served on the bank, who will have no choice but to tender the amount of the judgment plus interest to the prevailing plaintiff. That's how this is going to go down. It'll just go down in flames, meaning the Village of Dolton's, their finance and their financial situation. This is the Graham versus Dolton case in Cook County, where Graham alleged the Village of Dolton engaged in retaliation of the whistleblower, violation of the Public Employees Disability Act, and the violation of the Illinois Wage Payment and Collection Act against Dolton and Robert Collins Jr. So you got this court case, and the guy won. The guy clearly won. That was our guy talking earlier. Another consequence of Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard failing to pay bills and judgments. This is a judgment. You've got to pay. Oh, no, we don't. No, we don't. You know, she's basically saying, go F yourself. Come get it. And so they are. And it's costing more in attorney's fees. As this stuff goes on, those attorney's fees just keep ratcheting up because time spent hourly at $300 an hour, whatever it is. And I know Lori Lightfoot, she's charging $400 a month or $400 an hour, not a month. That would be a bargain. You don't get anything for $400 a month now, do you? She's charging $400 an hour. So in 2019, the Village of Dolton and Graham entered into a settlement with the court retaining jurisdiction for awarding of attorney's fees. The court granted $100,000 in attorney's fees. The village appealed, and the appellate court remanded it back to the Cook County Circuit Court. On or about February 28th, 2024, recently this year, the Circuit Court entered an order granting an award to Graham of $203,000 in attorney's fees and $13,000 in costs. As this keeps going, more money's being spent. Since then, the village has failed to tender the payment to this order and is now faced with a citation to discover assets. And that is what happened, which could freeze the bank's account. It did, in an amount 3 times the amount of the judgment until this judgment is paid, presumably with interest. Yeah, so that's where you sit. You've got a massive cash flow issue and probably no real way to work it out because the money's already being spent. Tiff's, she's got her entourage of police officers, right? Can't get rid of those. I mean, she's got to have her personal safety. We already talked. Another classic example of indication of huge cash flow issues was the annual lease payment that came due in May for the Village of Dolton for their fleet of police cars. Tiff went out and bought a bunch of cars, including the $150,000 SUV, right? I mean, she just, and that happened because she basically went to a hard money finance company that does leases and spent way more than she needed to so that she didn't have to go to the board and ask for their permission on leasing this really expensive vehicle. Yeah, I mean, you've just got financial mismanagement everywhere you look. And one of the headlines I saw for this live stream was, she can afford to go to Vegas, but she can't pay the water bills. And that's true. That's true. Now, Tiff is very, very popular in the Village of Dolton with the senior community because she has bent over backwards to make the seniors happy. So like, you know, when she's going through her accomplishments, kind of like when Biden goes through his accomplishments, which, you know, of his presidency, I'm always like, no, wrong, no, wrong. Oh, yeah, that's incorrect. No, yeah, you didn't do that. The Inflation Reduction Act actually increased inflation. So no, that one's wrong too. When Tiff brings up her accomplishments, a lot of it has to do with the senior community, which no issues. Seniors should get stuff too. Seniors should get, you know, they're like everybody else. You know, everybody wants something. I want my interests taken care of. But if you don't have water, yeah, how's that going to go? You're not paying for municipal water fees? How's that going? Yeah, how about no firefighters? Firefighters go on strike. They don't even have a contract. They haven't had a contract for 4 or 5 years. I mean, you've got all of these entities within Dolton that are struggling, that are having financial portions of their contracts taken away from them illegally. And now you've got this one where this should have been paid months and months and months ago. And that's what you hear so often at the meetings, is you'll hear the supervisors basically go, hey, where is the money going? And it's a rhetorical question because as people see Mayor, you know, Tiff driving around in her BMW and, you know, her huge SUV and her entourage of cop, you know, guys that are there to protect her from who knows what. And they travel with her and then trips to Vegas, you know, and then you've got Mayor Tiff's foundation, which she apparently funds with Township of Thornton. So Township of Thornton is concerned that this is, you know, blowing over on them as well. She doesn't have as much control of Township of Thornton as she does the Village of Dolton. So I think most of what you're going to see is going to come down on the Village of Dolton. But there will be additional backlash to Tiff and her supporters in Township of Thornton as well, because, you know, where there is smoke, there is fire. And there is a lot of smoke happening in both of these communities right now. And you might say, well, I mean, people have money, frozen in their bank accounts all the time. Well, no, typically not. If you're not doing anything illegal, if you're playing by the books, when you have a judgment taken out against you and you have said, we're going to pay, and you cut the check and you sign the check, and then you just put it in an envelope, and then you just throw it in that stack in that big walk-in closet you got, where you just throw all the other, invoiced checks that are supposed to go out to vendors. You just pile those up. I wouldn't be surprised if they literally found something like that, because these checks are supposed to be going out, right? And you hear all of the supervisors basically stating, why hasn't that been paid? We signed that check months ago. Well, it's because they don't have the funds to cover it. And if they give that one, then they can't pay for other services that to them, to TIF, are higher in priority for paying. So you've got kind of this huge cascading funnel of demands for funds. And when you take out, it's like Jenga, the game Jenga. When you take out that one critical piece and the whole thing kind of goes, that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing a game of Jenga that has been so far has, all the players have kept it up and it's still vertical, but you're about to see some pretty major stuff happen, because when you start taking chunks of 400 and freezing it, that means there's funds elsewhere that are not being paid that, should have been paid. Absolutely, period. Now, some of the other stories I've heard is that Mayor Tif has blocked a CPA from the meeting, from a town hall meeting. Okay, yeah, but why? And I kind of tend to dig into all right, here's a court case, here's what happens. I kind of look at that stuff. There's all kinds of other stories going on, and there will be other stories. But what I try and focus on is, all right, what's the big picture? You've got an insolvent village. It's insolvent. You don't have as much cash coming in as you need to pay the bills. Now here you've got one incident where it's like, okay, yep, that is going to start a compounding effect throughout the rest of the village's finances. And that compounding effect has been in play for months, if not the last 18 months, maybe 2 years. We don't really know, but you won't figure out what that really looks like until further down the road. And then you've got 4 or 5 vendors all saying at the same time, and you're starting to hear some of that. And then you're starting to hear the firefighters union saying, hey, what's up with this? And then you've got people talking about the police department and how they paid, hundreds of thousands of dollars, $900,000 to Tif's personal security. I mean, and that's money that should be going to pay all these other bills. That isn't happening. But no, don't worry. Tif's safety is okay. She's going to be okay until she lands in legal trouble, which invariably, I don't see a way out of this. There's no way. Without legal action, I mean, what Tiffany Henyard is doing is she is basically forcing the hand of anybody who is owed money to earn it and to have to go through the court system to do it. I mean, it's absolute insanity. It's craziness. But this is not uncommon. What is uncommon about this is how Tiff has basically put herself in this position by overspending and now not paying the bills that she should be paying. And all that is starting to stack up. And so the stack up gets accelerated as you have money taking out of an account. And so expect to see a bunch more of these types of incidents happen. Now, what we're kind of in a schedule now where I think every month they have the board meeting. So we've got another couple of weeks, I think. We had one last week on the 1st, I believe. And actually that meeting, when you see a meeting get canceled, like last minute, where they waited, I think last week they waited 62 minutes for the meeting to go, and Mayor Tiffany Henyard was in the building, and they canceled it, and they said, no, can't do it. That's because there's stuff like this going on behind the scenes. Hey, somebody's going to talk about something like this. We need to avoid that right now. We can't have that information getting out, because otherwise, why do you cancel a board meeting? Why? You're supposed to be going over, what's going on. So clearly there was something that somebody was going to say, somebody was going to show up, and a backroom deal had to be made, right? So when you've got all of this demand on funds because there's too many people that are trying to claim the funds that are available, when you've got that situation, people want to get paid. And so somebody comes to the meeting that's going to squawk. Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, we can't have that get out. Something like that is going on. I'm not saying exactly that's happening, but there is some version of that, because otherwise, why would you cancel a meeting when everybody is basically there to have the meeting and they just don't start it? And TIF just is a no-show, but then has it the next day and is trying to get people off their game, trying to get deals cut. Who knows what the actual reality is? This could be way more severe than what we're actually looking at. But yeah, it's a wild storyline, and this is just one more thing. Let's take a look at the article here. And I think there was a couple of things. Yeah, checks have been cut, but week to week, vendors are saying they have not been paid yet. That is the ongoing storyline that you hear. And that was from Trustee Tammy Brown. That's the lady with the DKNY on her shirt during that video. We were able to serve a document to the bank that requires them by law to freeze twice the amount of the judgment, approximately $440,000, said the attorney. Walsh represents David Graham. He's the whistleblower. After numerous failed appeals, Dolton officials settled with Graham. Appeal. Let's see if we can get lucky. Let's stave off having to pay all this. We'll appeal that. We'll appeal that. I mean, that's a business going down in the flames of bankruptcy. That is what you see happen. I mean, it's just so standard. You can only appeal your way out of so much, and then at some point in time, you just literally can't pay your daily bills, and everything freezes up. All right, we got locked out of the building because we didn't pay the rent. Phone's going to get cut off. Internet getting cut off. You're going to have that kind of thing. But it's going to be the village of Dolton. Their services get cut off. Oh, yeah, that's not good. We're not talking about a handful of roofs that were repaired or replaced that, should have been paid, weren't paid. Hey, you're supposed to pay it. You're supposed to pay it. You got just a ton of that going on. Excuse me. The village agreed in a settlement agreement to pay these fees. The court awarded these fees, and now they're not paying it. She, the mayor, has money to go to Vegas. There it is. But not to pay the village's judgments. And that is not right. Clearly it's not right. But what Mayor Tiff, everything from her, her use of the police officers to her renting of the cars to not paying bills, everything kind of fits in this pattern. And she literally came out and said, said to the community that she was a beacon of light. I found that one difficult to stomach. It's like, what? You're a beacon of light and you're having money frozen in your account that should be going out to pay legit expenses that your residents need to just basically operate their daily lives. And you're just jerking everybody around. Well, because, is somebody going to step in and, oh, here you go. Here's $5 million. Does that get your budget, in the right direction? Because I've heard statements from that there's the village is behind or has negative budget somewhere between $2 and $5 million. Is some rich guy really going to step in and, cut a check? Here you go, Village of Dolton. You guys do better next time. No, that's not going to happen. That's not how this works. Are they going to be able to float bonds? No. I mean, this village is insolvent. But we don't know that yet because TIF has done such a good job of basically concealing the facts and not being transparent at all. But now I guaranteed you're going to have more attorneys get involved, and people are going to go searching for their money just a little bit harder because they know, oh, yeah, that money's frozen. That money's frozen. Oh, yeah, they're no longer dealing with them. Oh, that attorney firm is gone. They're not dealing with them. Oh, yeah, this is not looking good. It's, people that are owed money are going to scrap for whatever scraps they can get. And then eventually everything will be put on hold, and a conservatorship will be appointed, something along those lines. Because as this gets just basically worse and worse, as it will, there's, and my point to bringing up the dude, coming in and cutting a check for $5 million, not going to happen, right? Because why would somebody do that? Why would somebody do that? Take control of the village? I mean, whatever, right? This is a village that's supposed to be operating on the taxpayers paying taxes, and then government distributes money. That's how it's supposed to work, right? It's just not working in that direction. And what's so fascinating about this case is that the Mayor Tiff is just, she's so overt in her spending of money. How about the $1,500 a month to her stylist, to her makeup, whatever that was? Remember, we had $1,500 every week, 2 weeks, something like that. She had to look fly for all of her engagements. She had to look fly for all of her videos and, TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff, which is important. I mean, that stuff, whether we like it or not, you've got to have a presence on social media. But when you're spending taxpayers' money on your clothes, your makeup, whatever, to the tune of way more than anybody in the village is doing, and then you're, in addition to that, not paying bills, yeah, that tends to be just a scooch of a little bit of a problem. So that is, that's kind of the basis of what we're dealing with right now. And I know a lot of other YouTubers haven't covered this because it's more one of those, a bank seized funds. That is not sexy at all. But what I'm trying to set you up for is this could be kind of that trigger point. Okay, this happened, boom, and this caused all of these others to happen. And I think that's what you'll see, because $400,000, when you're talking about a negative budget of $5 million in operating costs, and I don't know what the revenue of the town is, but it's not a huge town, right? 23,000 people. It's not enormous. You don't have billions of dollars coming through like a big city like in LA or San Francisco or even Seattle. You don't have huge, enormous numbers coming through. So every dollar counts. And at this point in time, when segments of the village's bank account are being frozen, that's what's going to cause that teeter to go on down the road. So remember this one in the back of your head and kind of think to yourself, yeah, that happened. This is the reality. This is the real stuff going on. All those other videos about just, this person wasn't let in. Jedediah Brown, he went after, whomever. Stan Brown, he flipped. He went from Tiff's side to he's voting with all the others. Yeah, that stuff is indicative, but it's indicative of what's going on right here. These very kind of not boring stories, but all right, bank seized account. Oh, that's not that exciting, but it is. All right. I'm going to end this stream right here because that's about it on this one. Thank you so much for being here, and I will keep you apprised as this kind of continues, because this will continue one way or another. Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next one.